What do I want to do first? I'll do this first. So if you guys can't see, me and your slides at the same time, there are ways you can change your view on Zoom. So you can see everybody, you can see just me, you can see me and the slides. So there are different ways under view where you can kind of change that around if you don't like how you're seeing it. So just a quick introduction to what this course is. So Bio 102 was designed to prepare primarily pre-nursing students to do well in anatomy, physiology, and microbiology specifically. And it used to be that you would take Bio 100, which is a general bio class that everyone takes who's going to take just a general ed bio class. And the problem with that is half of the semester in Bio 100 is spent on plants, ecology, evolution, organismal diversity that you don't need to be successful in anatomy, physio, micro. Also, it wasn't teaching you the lab skills that you needed to be successful in those courses. For example, you would only use the microscope once at the beginning of the semester, and then you wouldn't use it again, and then you'd go into micro and anatomy not really having the microscope skills. So we developed Bio 102, as did other community colleges in California, to really specifically prepare nursing students. So I've taught this course at Miracosta for many semesters, and I've taught it at Palomar for 15 years. So that's what this class is for. If you are not a pre-nursing student, don't worry, you can take this for general ed. I just will warn you, as I did in a prior email, that it is a little more difficult than the typical general bio course. We teach it somewhere between the non-majors and the majors level. So we kind of hit it right in the middle. So Bio 200 is our majors level course that covers these exact same topics in just a little more detail. So if you are a bio major, this is a great prep for you before taking Bio 200. So there are a lot of reasons you might be taking this. If you have questions about whether you should be in this class, please ask me early on so we can get you into another class if you don't feel like this is the right class for you. Okay. Online courses. We can do this. There are a lot of advantages as I've found over the past few semesters. One of the huge advantages is I found it's a lot easier for students to find time to meet with me, which is great. I've been able to help individually a lot more students in this online environment because normally I'm in my office hours on campus and people have lives and they can't just stick around all day and wait for my office hour. So I think that has been a big advantage, is just I'm available. I'm here at home in my bedroom doing this. And I have my set office hours, which we'll go over, but I'm also available to you other times. So please take advantage of that. Let me get to know you, get to know me. Feel comfortable asking questions. It's so important to your success as a college student to feel comfortable going to your professor's office hours and asking questions. Also, get in the habit of helping each other. You all need each other. Even if you are a person who doesn't like working in groups, believe me, I get it. I am not a group work kind of person. I didn't ever like it when I was in college. And I know there are a lot of people who feel the same way, but I'm telling you right now in this online environment, you need each other because you're missing out on so much that happens in person in the classroom. So I just want you to know, I know there are challenges. There are 5 of us in my house who are all doing online school together right now. And I mean, this morning was crazy at my house, just trying to get everybody, like this is the first day for all of us to be back. My daughter's at UCLA. They started their quarter the first week of January. So she's been back in session for a while. But our 2 sons, they just started back today at Palomar. My husband is actually, he's a retired fire captain, and he actually is starting classes at Palomar today. So we're all 5 online using the internet signal at the same time. And I know from last semester, at some point, there's going to be somebody in the hallway screaming, the internet went out. I just got kicked out of my class. And, the dogs are going to be fighting with each other in the backyard. And, I know there's chaos going on in your house. Believe me, I'm living it. So, I want you to get in the habit of using the chat feature on Zoom. So as our first chat today, if everyone just, for the purposes of attendance, because I'll tell you, I take attendance based on participation. And that means if you've just turned on Zoom and you're not on camera, not being on camera is okay, but if you're not listening and participating, then you won't get participation credit for that week. And usually what I'll do is I'll ask some questions through chat. And even if you don't have an answer, just put a question mark or something, just so I know that you're participating and you're listening. So as our first chat today, if you can just name a challenge that you have experienced in the past semester or expect to experience doing online classes versus in-person instruction. And I'm going to look at that chat. I agree with that challenge to focus. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so far only one person has, okay, here we go. Writing long and detailed papers. Oh boy, who was that teacher? These are all great answers. I'm seeing a lot of focus and motivation, and I agree with that. Yeah, trying to help your kids do online instruction at the same time you're trying to do it is really tough. Yeah, there's so many distractions at home. It does make it tough. I want to share with you a couple of tips that I have for you just to try to overcome some of these things. And, one of those is if you wait until you have free time to work on school, it's just not going to happen because none of us have free time, right? We fill our days with things. And it's kind of like if you wait till you have free time to go to the gym, a lot of times it just doesn't happen, right? Because there are other things that come up. And the same thing is true with school. You have to schedule it like a doctor's appointment. And you just have to tell everybody in your house during these times. So, for example, today on Mondays from 9:30 to 11, I'm shutting the door. And unless someone's bleeding to death, don't bother me. This is my time. This is important. This is important. You have to make school so important that it's right up there, right under taking care of your family. I know family always comes first, but they also need to help you do what's important for your success. And that is you need to have that time. And again, if you just wait until everything else in the house is taken care of to start studying and watching the videos, it's not going to happen. So even on the days that we're not in session, you have to schedule time to watch the videos. Otherwise, you're going to be playing catch up and you're not going to get the benefit of having enough time to do the work right. So you really do have to schedule it like a doctor's appointment, and you just have to stick to it. Otherwise, it won't happen. I would say that, for the most part, if you're having issues with your internet signal, I don't have a problem with you turning your camera off. Just make sure you're participating when I ask questions. So, and then with your lab partners, you'll probably need to have your camera on because you guys are going to be doing the experiment together, and we'll talk about that today. That's going to be kind of a challenge for most people. Let me look at the chat and see if there's anything. Yeah, it's hard when you've got kids at home. Oh, I'm somehow drawing on my slide right now. I don't know how the heck that just happened. Okay, I really want to emphasize that you should not email me through Canvas. And I know that's the easy way to do it. because I'm going to be, I know it seems kind of hypocritical. I'm going to be emailing you through Canvas, but I'm asking you to not email me through Canvas. For some reason, I'm telling you right now, if you consistently email me through Canvas, at some point I won't get your email. And you also, it will let you attach things, but those attachments don't ever come through, ever, ever, ever on Canvas. So if you're trying to email an assignment to me, for example, let's say you had trouble, you couldn't get it uploaded by the deadline, you wanted to make sure you got it into me, so you decide to email me the assignment. If you do it through Canvas, I am not going to get that attachment. So please, please, please make sure that you use regular email and actually type in my email address. Also want to point out, I do have a Z in Velasquez rather than an S in the middle. A lot of people misspell that. You do need to check your email every single day. It's really, really important that you check your email every single day. And the reason for that is you're going to be getting information from me almost every day. And some of it's really important. Okay, so for example, let's say people are doing the lab and they're finding out that a certain chemical isn't working. I might delete a section of the lab, and you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble if you read your email and see that I'm deleting that section of the lab. Or there might be a question on the quiz that's confusing for some students, and I'll send you out some tips about that. I might extend a deadline because of a power outage that some people had or something. And so there are a lot of reasons you need to check your email every day. So if you don't want to check your Palomar student email every day, please forward your email from Palomar to your regular email address. Okay, you don't need to go into Palomar student email every day. You can just forward it to your Gmail or your Yahoo account or whatever you typically check the most. And if you have questions about how to do that, feel free to email me and we can talk about that. When you do email me, it's really helpful if you include which section you're in. So if you can just say, hey, this is Debbie in your Monday, Wednesday section, and include your last name too, especially when we're first trying to get to know each other, just so I know who I'm dealing with. It'll be really helpful. In addition to my 2 Bio 102 sections, I also teach a Bio 101 section, and it just gets confusing if people don't tell me what class they're in, because someone will just say, hey, on that assignment that's due today, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what class you're in, so I don't know what assignment you're referring to. So be sure to just tell me what class you're in. If you have DRC accommodations, please be sure to email me those right away so I can, most typically that's an extension on your testing time. So please email me. What I would like to do is meet with you in my office hours and talk about how we can make the class work best for you based on your specific needs. So please, let's set up that meeting early and talk about the structure of the class and make sure, because for example, some people on their accommodation, it says you need a note taker. Let's talk about whether you really want a note taker or you're just going to keep that option open in case you feel like you do need it at some point. So that would just be one example. Okay, check your email every day. Okay, so these are my office hours. I'm just going to really quickly see if I can find the eraser on here so I can get rid of this stuff at the top. It's not even worth it at this point. Sorry. That's really annoying. Okay, so my office hours. So Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm actually in class, obviously like this from 9:30 to 11. But then Wednesdays and Thursdays, I will be available. Okay, so the best part about that morning office hour is if you decide that you and your lab partners are going to meet during that time, that's perfect, because then if you come up with a question that you all can't agree on or there's some confusion, you can just pop into my office hour all together and we can all talk about it. So that's another reason it would be a really good idea for you all to decide that you're going to meet with your lab partners on Wednesday mornings, because then I'm available if you have problems and you can just pop into my office hour and talk to me about it. And then I also have an office hour on Wednesday and Thursday afternoons, 3 to 4 on Wednesdays and 4 to 5 on Thursdays. And that's just to try to accommodate a variety of people's schedules. There is a separate Zoom link for my office hours. It will be the same every time. It will also be the same if you email me and say, "Hey, can we meet at noon on Friday?" And I say, "Yeah," and then you'll use that same office hour meeting link, and that's on Canvas. I'll show you guys that in a minute. Any questions about anything I've said so far? You can ask it verbally or you can go in the chat.
Hi, I actually did have a quick question. When you first mentioned whether or not this class was going to be for us, are you available after this Zoom meeting to talk about that?
Sure, yeah, yeah, Denise, I'm happy to stay, and yep, I can stay as long as people need to answer
Cool.
questions after the class.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Any other questions?
I kind of had a question, but it was more back to like when we do labs and stuff, if that's okay to go back that
Of
far.
course, yeah.
So we don't have like lectures on the Zoom. We just do labs over Zoom. And then we watch lectures like on our own time. Is that like correct? Just making sure.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
reversed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know it's a little confusing because online it says lecture is synchronous and lab is asynchronous, and we're just going to flip-flop that just based on what I'm hearing from students. I'll tell you the first semester we were online, so spring of 2020, when we left campus early, I actually wasn't teaching that semester. I was managing a grant program that runs the STEM Center and some other STEM related programs on the campus. But then I taught that summer, and I thought I was doing students a favor by not having live labs and not having people work with the lab partners. And the number one comment I got from students in the summer was, we really wish we had had more lab instruction, and we really wish we had had lab partners. So then in the fall, I made people have lab partners, but the whole deal was I would do live lectures and then they would go off on their own and do the labs. And that didn't work either. There was a lot of confusion and people got wrong results, and there was a lot of fighting amongst people. I don't know what was going on, but it just didn't work out. So they all suggested in the comments, like, hey, why don't you do live labs and just record the lectures? Because the lectures are pretty straightforward. And then if people have questions about lecture material, it's usually kind of an individual question and they can come to my office hour. But the labs are confusing for a lot of students. So that's why we decided to flip-flop it. So what we'll do is typically I'll just come on and I'll give like a 10-minute introduction to the lab and go through some of the instructions. And then you guys will go into your breakout rooms with your group and you'll work together, and you can pop back in and ask me questions, but I'll also rotate around the groups and just make sure everybody's staying on task. People are doing the right thing. Nobody has questions, and you'll get the bulk of your lab done, which, okay, that's another good thing, right? Like now, on Mondays, you're going to get the bulk of your lab done. And if you have problems, I'm going to be here to help you. And then on Wednesdays, you are probably going to need to meet again with your lab group and just go over the answers, talk about your results. And then I'm going to be there also, but I'll be in my office hour and you guys can pop in there and ask questions. So this will be our first time doing it, but I'll just say that normally you would be live with me in a classroom with your lab partners. So I'm just trying to replicate that the best we can in an online environment.
Thank you.
Most of your labs are done with lab kits that you are going to become very familiar with very soon. And so if you have questions about the lab kit pickup, please be sure to let me know. If we're on the wait list, when will we know if we're officially in the class? Okay, that's a great question, Dana. So at the end of class today, I'm going to take attendance based on who showed up and participated in the class today. And then I can let everyone on the wait list know, because anyone who is a no-show today automatically gets dropped. What's happening is normally in class, I can over enroll by like 3 or 4 students because I know there are some drops. But unfortunately with the lab kits, we were only authorized to buy the number that matched our enrollment. So we weren't able to buy extra lab kits. There might be like 1 or 2 extra lab kits, so I might be able to over enroll, by 1 or 2, but I'm still waiting to hear how many lab kits actually came in. We had to order them, believe it or not, we had to reserve this spring's lab kits last spring. I mean, you can imagine these companies that sell these lab kits, they have just been overwhelmed by requests from colleges for these lab kits all of a sudden. And so we had to buy them a long time in advance. So there wasn't time to really make modifications. Also, they're really expensive. It's like $420 a student for these lab kits. Okay, compared to if you guys were in the classroom, the cost is about $30 a student per semester for the materials we use versus 420. So it's a lot of money, and that's why we weren't authorized to buy extras. Are we allowed to record the Zoom meetings? Okay, yes. So I am actually recording the Zoom meeting right now. So it will be recorded each time. And then every afternoon, it usually takes a couple hours for that to process. And then I will post the video on Canvas each time. There will be a copy of that recording each time. Yeah. Any questions about the lab kit pickup?
I have one.
Sure.
On that day, I actually have a hybrid class for the EMT program, and that is is there a way for us to send it to an Escondido, or how do we go about picking that up?
Okay, so I just want to kind of explain the logistics of the lab kit pickups, just so you guys understand, what's going on so that you can understand how hard it is to modify this. So we have 2,800 students, 2,800 students just in biology, and then there are like another 3,000 in chemistry. So we're going to have close to 6,000 students who are going to have to come on campus during a 1-week period of time to pick up lab kits. And the campus is closed. There are a few people in the admissions office, but otherwise the campus is closed. No one is working on campus. I have not been allowed to go into my office to even get things I left behind since I left that day in March last year. So it's been almost a year since I've been allowed on campus. I've only been allowed one day, and that was last semester on lab kit pickup day. And what happens is we stand in the parking lot, and you're going to pull in, and you're going to hold up a piece of paper to your window that has your name and your class. And we're going to ask you to pop your trunk or open the back, and we're going to put that box in there, and then you're going to drive away. So it's contact free. You have to wear a mask. We're wearing a mask. We have gloves on. It's contact free. Drive up, get your lab kit. And each class has the one day that, so we've got a bio 100 day, a bio 200 day, a bio 210 day. So you guys are coming on the bio 102 day. Unfortunately, there's usually a makeup day, but we got the short end of the stick because bio 102 is on the makeup day. So then that means you don't have a makeup day. So I said, well, what are we going to do about that? So we've got a couple of options. One is by next week, I was going to have you meet your lab partners today, but I'm not going to do that because the roster's still in flux. So some people are going to be dropping, some people are going to be adding. So you're going to meet your lab partners next week. Okay. That's number one. But number two, one option is ask your lab partner to get the lab kits for you. In fact, what would really make it easy is if one of the lab partners picked up the kits for everybody in the group, and then that's less people coming onto campus. And then you guys can just get them from each other. Another option is, and I've done this during the summer and last semester, I can pick up the lab kit for you and you can just come get it off of my porch. I don't have a problem with that. Let's face it, if people want to know where I live, all you have to do is Google me, right? Like there's my address. I can find out where any of you live. It's not that hard to find out where each, so it's not like top secret where I live, but I do live in Poway. So that's not convenient for some people. So then the other option is find a friend or a roommate or a parent or somebody to come pick it up for you. Absolute last resort is I can make it available for you on a different day of the week. I just have to make that arrangement with the people who are going to be working on those days. And like in the midst of the Bio 200 kids, you would be the one Bio 102 student who would pull up, and you would just have your name and Bio 102 and your section number, and then they could cross you off the list and give you the kit. So if you absolutely know your lab partners can't get it for you, you can't come to Poway, you can't find a family member or friend to get it for you, then you could go on one of those other days. But I just wanted you guys to understand the complexity of it. You know, it's not like you're just showing up at a room and saying, hey, can I get my lab kit? And you guys are the only ones doing that. I mean, we've got a lot of students trying to get lab kits, and we had a really hard time getting this approved. I will tell you, the college did not want us to do this. So the fact that we're able to get these lab kits to you, you know, you guys are really lucky, because there are colleges right now who aren't doing hands-on lab. It's more of watch a video of your teacher doing the lab and then answer the questions. And guess what? A lot of those students are finding out the class is not transferable because they didn't have a hands-on lab experience, even though these are special circumstances. Also, the torture of that, okay, you're gonna not necessarily love these lab kits, but I'll tell you right now, it's way more fun than watching me on video doing a lab. Like, nobody wants to do that. And there are colleges, Miracosta, this exact class at Miracosta, my friend Stacy is filming herself doing the labs, and her students are watching her do it. And it is like watching paint dry. It is not a fun thing. It is torture. Let me just quickly go in the chat. Okay. Should we be watching the lectures before the labs?
Sorry, I have a question on the labs still. So
Okay, sure.
is there overlap between the lab kits? Like, I'm also taking Chem 104, so I'm going to pick up earlier. Did the college kind of understand, like, maybe the students taking both, so we're like combining the kit so that you get like one microscope? Okay.
No overlap at all, because we
Okay,
don't.
they're totally different.
Yeah, we don't know what students are taking what, and so yeah, everything is just standalone. Yeah,
Okay.
everything's standalone, and there are no duplicate labs. So what you're doing in Chem 104 is completely different from what you're doing in Bio 102. Yeah, they won't be the same.
Okay.
Activities at all. And what happens here, I'll give you guys an example, because I have some lab kits from last semester down here on my floor. This is my bedroom that we're in right now. The bed's over there. This is so underneath my desk I have, you know, all this stuff. So, you know, you're going to be getting a bunch of like beakers and graduated cylinders to do measurements. You're going to get safety goggles and the whole thing. But each individual lab, it comes in a bag. So like this one says chemistry of life, bonding and properties of water. I think we do this like week 3 or 4. And it's got everything you need in this one bag, except for your general equipment. So then you have a general equipment bag that has stuff like this, has a thermometer, has beakers, and then this will be the individual things you need. So these individual experiments are unique to each class. 100 doesn't even have the same ones that we do. They're all different. Bio 200 has some that are the same as us, but so that's how that will work.
Okay.
And then you get a microscope. Where's my microscope? This is the microscope you're gonna get. And it's surprisingly good. Like, you can actually see stuff under this thing. I was shocked at how good it is. So there you go. Should you be watching the lectures before the labs? No. So what you're going to do is on Mondays, you need to have read the lab exercise and be familiar with what equipment and materials you need and be ready to go for lab. And then you'll worry about lecture kind of after that. If there's some lecture related stuff that I feel you need to know before we do the lab, then I'll give that to you during the lab. But usually what's happening is because you can't pick up those lab kits till week 3, the labs are kind of behind the lecture. So you will have already had that lecture material kind of the week before, and then the following week you'll have a corresponding lab on the same kind of topic. So for example, mitosis and meiosis, you'll do that in lecture 1 week, and then the next week is your lab on that. So you will have already done the lecture material anyway before you get to that lab. That's a really great question. Yes. So if you changed your email to forward to your personal email, then you'll get everything from your Palomar will get forwarded. But you know, it's weird. I'll give you an example. So my husband is a new Palomar student, and he forwarded all of his Palomar email to his Gmail account. When he checks his Gmail account, he's getting everything from his teachers, but he's not getting things like scholarship opportunities or announcements about the cafeteria or whatever. He's not getting that kind of stuff, but he is getting stuff from his teachers. So for some reason, 100% of it doesn't forward. So you will have to occasionally still check your student email in some cases, but most of it should forward. You will, oh my gosh. No, we're going to do this week's lab today. There is a note from you stating we will be having class on Wednesday for the next 2 weeks. Is that so correct? Yes, that's one of my slides coming up. Thanks. That's a great question. So, so next week and the week after, our Monday thing is actually on Wednesday. And I'm sorry for the confusion on that, but 2 weeks from now, Monday is a holiday. It's President's Day. So the college is closed that day. And so we're going to do our lab on Wednesday that week. Next week, I'll be honest with you, I'm getting my second Moderna shot on Monday, and that's really important. And I can't miss, I can't get a different appointment. Like, you've got to go on that day and you take the appointment you can get. And so my appointment just happens to be during class. And I got that appointment, 3 weeks ago when I got my first shot. So that's how that goes. And hopefully, I don't know if any of you've had your second shot yet, but hopefully I won't be down and out the next day. Hopefully I'll still be good. I did have a horrible headache for a week, from the first shot, and my arm hurt like hell, which I'm sure you've all experienced as well if you've had your shot. Go on, if you've had your first shot, go on the chat and say yes, because I'm kind of curious how many people have had their shot. I know a lot of us are, in healthcare environments where we've been really fortunate in being able to get it. My daughter works in a psych office, and so she was able to get hers. My husband's a firefighter, so he was able to get his. So we've been lucky that 3 of us have been able to get ours. Have any of you had the Pfizer, or have most of you had Moderna? If anyone's had Pfizer, type Pfizer. Ooh, nice. Very cool. The more of us who get vaccinated, the better. Okay, just real quickly, you need to use Microsoft products. They're available for free. If you have questions about that, ask me. I'm not going to spend much time on that. You don't need a printer for this class. I don't have a printer right now. You're going to do everything digitally, and I'll show you that in a minute. We already talked about it, synchronous. So these are the 2 Wednesdays when we're going to have class. So next week and the week after, class will be on Wednesday. So this Wednesday, 2:10, is when you're going to meet your lab partners. And we are going to do the experiment together in your lab groups that day. It is an actual experiment. So you need to have read it and be familiar with the requirements and what you need. You do need some materials for that lab. And I'll go through that list in a minute. It's mostly Alka-Seltzer and a couple of other things. Okay, so some weeks the lab instructions and the discussion are going to take the total time. And then you're going to have to meet with your lab partners and do the experiment at different times. I mean, it's just going to vary week to week. So you're going to kind of have to be a little flexible. But for the most part, this discussion part at the beginning isn't going to take as long as it is today. Okay, it's going to take like 10 minutes. And then you're going to go and do the lab with your lab partners. The more organized you are and the more prepared you are, the faster you're going to finish. So I really encourage you and your partners to commit as a group to, okay, during the weekend, we're going to read the lab. We're going to figure out what we need. You're going to have everything ready to roll. So you're going to open up your bags. You're going to have everything out ready to go. So that when I'm walking you through stuff and I'm like, hey, you know, look at this piece of equipment. Here's how it works. You already have it there and you can pull yours out too. And you can really start thinking about how this is going to work. Otherwise, it's really confusing. Okay, so you're going to get participation points every single week, including today. Okay, so you're going to get points for being here today. And sometimes your 10 points are just showing up and participating. Sometimes your 10 points are showing up and participating, plus you have to upload something. For example, this week, you're going to be uploading your lab contract, your signed lab contract. You can digitally sign that. You can just type your initials and then type your name for your signature. Or if you already have an electronic signature, you can just enter that. You're going to upload that to Canvas for 5 of your points, and then the other 5 are going to be for this. So sometimes it's just coming, and I will always tell you how you're going to get your points that week. But one way or another, you're going to get 10 points every single week if you show up and participate in these Zoom meetings on Mondays or on Wednesdays for the 2 weeks we have it on Wednesday. Are there any questions about that? Okay, also please really be sure to familiarize yourself with the attendance requirements and other reasons that I would drop you from the class. You have to be actively participating to get credit for the class. Okay, so we are a state-funded organization and we cannot give you credit for taking the class if you have not participated for a certain number of hours. So you can't miss more than 2 class meetings or I have to drop you, regardless of the reason. Even if you have a doctor's note, even if, you have to spend a certain number of hours participating in the class to get credit. So if you have questions about that, please let me know. Okay, so lectures are going to be recorded and you can already start watching those and you can ask questions during my office hours. The way you're going to be graded in the lab is in addition to participation and doing the experiments, there are going to be 2 lab exams. Okay, one is going to be right after spring break and it's going to cover the first 8 labs. And then the second one covers fewer labs. It just works out schedule wise. I didn't want to have a lecture exam and lab exam on the same week. And it just the way it worked out. So if you have questions about that, I'll be reviewing for those lab exams. So the week of the lab exam, what we'll do on that Monday is you won't be doing a new lab activity that week. I'll just be reviewing during this hour and a half. I'll be reviewing and really getting you on track for what you should know for that lab exam. Okay, you're going to be assigned to a lab group. And you know, here's the deal. I'll be honest with you about this. When you're in person in class, like or similar people tend to find each other. Okay, so the slackers find each other. The A students find each other. It's this weird phenomenon that occurs. You all recognize each other. I don't know how, but it happens. I mean, it just does. It happens every semester. You guys aren't going to have that advantage. Okay. Zoom is going to randomly assign you to your lab group, and that's going to be your lab group for the semester. So I recognize that does not always work out, but it can. Okay. And here's how it can work out. We all need to have a similar mindset. Okay. And that mindset needs to be, this situation sucks. We haven't chosen the situation that we're in right now. We need to all make the best of it, and we all need to help each other through this. Okay, we need to support each other emotionally. We need to help each other get through the material. And I know it can work because I've seen it working down the hall in my own house. Okay, my daughter, it breaks my heart that she's in graduate school and she's missing out. She's never even met the people she's in grad school with. And they're in this cohort together. And I'll tell you what, I have never seen people helping each other out. Like, it makes me teary sometimes when I'm walking down the hall and I hear 11:30 at night, these students are on Zoom helping each other out. And they have this chat that they go on, and there are students all over the world in this program. There are students in Dubai and Korea, and they're on a different time zone. And they'll go on the chat at 2 a.m. and say, I'm really struggling with the statistics homework. Can somebody help me out? And they're all online helping each other. Nobody's trying to compete with each other, outdo each other. Nobody's slacking. Don't be the slacker in your group. Like, if you're going to be the slacker in your group, why are you here? Okay, this is your education. This is your life. This is your time. Life is short. Don't waste your own time. Don't be here if you're going to slack. And I know, believe me, I've been doing this for 30 something years now. There are slackers in every group. Why? Like, I don't get it. Why? Go do something else with your time. Like, your time is too valuable. You're only here a certain number of breaths on this earth. So don't waste everyone else's time. Don't be the slacker in your group. Help each other out. You guys need to bounce these ideas off from each other. You need to talk about the lab results. You need to help each other get through the lecture tests. And here's the deal. You'll form these friendships in these groups, and then you'll go on and you'll take anatomy together. You'll take physio together. You'll take micro together. You might even end up in the same nursing program. You might work in the same hospital someday, where you're really counting on each other. And you're like, hey, I remember that person. I could count on them when we took that class together. So please take advantage of having those people you can contact anytime, and they're going to help you out. You're going to exchange contact information, and you're going to be there for each other, not just in this class, but maybe in future classes and in future things in life. So please take advantage of that. Make the most of this opportunity to do that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, yeah, that was my mom talk for the day. Okay, so there are additional lab materials that you need. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, Carolina sends us these kits, and then they give you a list of additional crap you need. It's like, well, we're already paying you $420 each per student. Why can't you just give us that? Like, I don't decide. Why'd you decide not to put the salt in there? Like, what why? How much would that have cost you? You know? So I have posted that list of additional materials. So for next week, you need Alka-Seltzer, not Alka-Seltzer cold and flu. Okay, this used to be the antacid of choice. Like, your grandma probably still has some Alka-Seltzer in the cabinet, but we are doing a scientific method experiment that requires you to use 3 different temperatures of water and predict which temperature is going to cause the Alka-Seltzer tablet to dissolve the fastest. And we're going to run 2 trials of that. So you're going to need 6 Alka-Seltzer tablets. You can buy them on Amazon. They can be an off-brand. You can go to Target, Walgreens, CVS. Let's see. Okay. I just want to make sure there aren't any big questions for me right now.
Actually, I did want to ask about that, since Megan is offering a class group, because we have our lab partners and we do something else separate to what Megan's suggesting. Is that going to be okay? Or should we just do the
Absolutely.
labs?
I love that. That would make me so happy if you guys would do that. And you know, this is nice because it's only 42 of you instead of 60, which is a little more manageable. And obviously not everyone is going to want to participate, but you know, there are a lot of different formats in which you all can do that. Like, you can create a Zoom meeting code that you're just going to use the same meeting code every time when you want to meet, or you know, you can figure out some other. There are a lot of different formats for doing that. There are a lot of different chat features, and but I will show you I'm going to show you in a minute on Canvas, there is a discussion board where you guys can go on and communicate with each other too. So that's awesome. I'm not, this is taking a lot of time. I'm not going to go through all the information about the lecture exams. I'm going to go onto Canvas in a minute and just show you directly the discussion posts and everything else.
Sorry, I just thought it would be nice because I don't know about you guys, but I'm like someone who would probably be up till like 1 in the morning and have like a random question. And like we can always mute and unmute the chat if you guys don't want to receive messages at a certain time. So I just thought it'd be much easier and it would help me out and I feel like we would help each other out. So just want to put that out there.
That's awesome. Thank you, Megan. That's really great. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so that goes away. Okay. So for those of you who haven't logged into Canvas yet, I'm sure all of you have by now, but I'm always surprised at this point at how many haven't. So you'll just log into Canvas and then I thought I'd already logged into Canvas, but let me just do it again just in case. Okay, so if you haven't done it yet, go on and schedule your lab kit pickup. I'll be honest with you, you can show up anytime that day, okay? So if you couldn't get 9:30 and you wanted 9:30, just show up at 9:30. I'm the one that's gonna be putting it in your trunk. I don't have a problem with you, just show up anytime. And you will get any more specific details of what parking lot you're coming to and how it's gonna work. So, and again, you're just gonna hold up a piece of paper with your name and your section number on it. Here's the link for the Monday meetings, but again, 2 Wednesdays. And then this is the link for office hours. So 2 different links. The reason for that is I found that in the previous semesters online, my Tuesday, Thursday class was coming to Monday, Wednesday. And now that we're doing lab stuff, it kind of messes stuff up. So they were trying to come both times, which is okay, but I wanted you guys to have a separate link from them so they can't just pop in anytime they want. Here's the textbook. We will never have assigned reading in this textbook, but I get in trouble if I don't have one. You don't need it. I'll be honest. I would like to say though that it is a good idea for you to buy a biology textbook used because you will be required to have it for future classes and it will help you slightly in this class. So, you know, I encourage you to just go on Amazon and buy any used biology textbook for $5 or less. I like Campbell Biology. To me, it's more in line with how I teach. And most of the figures that I use for instruction are from Campbell Biology. So you'll be able to follow along. And I think I said in my note, I'm trying to see if I have one in my room right now. No, I don't have Campbell in here right now. I have a different one. But it'll have a plant on the cover. Don't get one with a cute, if it has a cute animal on the cover, that's the non-majors. You don't want cute animal. You want scary plant is what you want. And if you have a question about it, just email me and I can tell you if the one you're looking at is the right one. Obviously, here's the syllabus and here's the syllabus quiz. You have to take this quiz by Friday at 5 p.m. So please don't forget to do that. Not only is it worth 10 points, but I drop anyone who doesn't take that because that's how I know who's still planning to participate. Okay, so everything else from here on out will be arranged by week. So everything you need for week 1 is in week 1. And here we are, this is week 1. So in addition to the lab you need to do this week, there are lecture videos you need to watch. So this week is just general characteristics of life, how biology is organized, and natural selection. Take really good notes on both of these natural selection videos because I can go ahead and tell you there will be 2 essay questions. One on the natural selection in the rock pocket mouse and one on the evolution of lactose tolerance in humans. These will be 2 essay questions on exam 1. So make sure you take really good notes on these videos. You can use your lecture notes on the exams. So take really good lecture notes. When you're watching those videos, take really clear notes. My best advice to you is use as much paper as possible. Okay, so the more paper you use, the more spread out your notes are, the more mentally organized you're going to be. Your brain is taking snapshots of those notes when you're studying, and if it's all crammed together and there's stuff written sideways, you're not going to be mentally organized when you study. Use a lot of paper when you take notes in class. You need to read the lab safety manual and then sign this contract and upload it for your points this week. So here's where you'll upload it. So I'm just going to click on this upload your submittal thing. So it says print, sign, and upload your lab safety contract. And you'll do that for 5 of your points this week. And it shows you what format it has to be in to upload it. Okay, and then there's a video for part of your lab this week, and then this is your lab this week. Okay, so normally you would be working on this with your lab partners, but you don't have lab partners yet. So you're going to work on this and answer all of the questions. So the first part doesn't require a video, but the second part does require a video. So the first part is metric conversion problems, and then the second part is basic measurement techniques. To answer these questions, you need to watch the video. So it says, please stop and watch the video before answering these questions. You will not turn these questions in, but if you don't answer all of them correctly, you won't do well on the lab exam. So these are the kinds of things that when you do eventually meet with your lab partners, you can talk about. But meanwhile, since you're not going to have lab partners yet, you're going to work on these problems individually. And then if you have questions, come to my office hour and ask me. I am going to go through a couple of these today because there is a very specific format you need to use for answering these questions. So I'm just going to talk to you for about 2 more minutes, and then we're going to go through some of these metric conversion problems together, because these are a little tricky if you haven't taken math for a while. Some of you will breeze right through them. I will tell you on the lab exam, you have to show your work, and it has to be in a specific format to get credit. So I really want to make sure I show you that format. Okay, you only have a lecture exam every other week. So your lecture exam, your first one is at the end of week 2, lecture exam 1, and it's on everything from weeks 1 and 2. It's a combination of multiple choice, short answer, and essay questions. The difference between a short answer and an essay question is that a short answer question doesn't have a specific number of words, but the essay question does. So short answer is usually 1 or 2 sentences. An essay question is not a 5-paragraph essay, but it's like a big paragraph or 2 big paragraphs. And I will give you a minimum number of words. If your answer doesn't meet the minimum word requirement, you don't get credit, regardless of if everything you said is correct. You have to write the minimum number of words to get credit on those essay questions. So if a question says no minimum word requirement, then you can just write 1 or 2 sentences. In that case, I'm looking for specific content. But essay question, you need to write a lot more. And again, I can go ahead and tell you that the 2 essay questions on exam 1 are natural selection questions on those 2 videos. Okay, for week 2, this is where you're going to upload the photos of you doing the scientific method lab. So you should always have your cell phone camera or another camera available when you're doing the lab, because you will have to take pictures of your results or your setup every week that you're using the lab kits. There is a study guide for every exam, and I'll just show you the first one. Some of them are in the form of questions, and some are know this, know this, know this. For the first one is just know this, know this, know this. So it's really just, the first one's really just a list. Okay, versus if we go to, let me go to a future week where it's more of a question format. I don't remember if this one's more of a question format. No.
I have a question actually.
Sure.
Are the tests timed in a specific time of the day, or is it just take it by end of day?
That's a really good question. So every week that there is a lecture exam, which is every other week, everything's always due by 5 p.m. on Friday. So any lab uploads you need to do are by 5 p.m. on Friday. Exams, the deadline is 5 p.m. on Friday. Okay, I know everyone is used to 11:59 p.m. on Sunday or 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. The reason I do it at 5 p.m. on Friday is if you're having a problem with your internet connection, or your connection drops during the exam, or some other issue you're having, I'm not going to be awake for you at 11:59 on Sunday. So I do it so that I'm here to help you if something goes wrong. And you know what? It's good. It forces you to get it done, and then you've got your weekend. It's like, poof, 5 p.m. on Friday, I'm done. And I can do something else on the weekend, or you can get a jump start on the next week, reading your labs, getting a jump start on the next week. This is just a quick example of a study guide that's more of a question format versus a long list of things you need to know. Let's see if this is a question. Okay, so yes, you can take your exam any day. So you can go on and take your exam. So each exam has a time that it opens. So for example, let's see, for the first exam, when does it become available? Let's see. Oh, this one is available actually now. Some of the future ones won't be available, till like the week of, but like on Monday, they'll always be available by Monday at 8 a.m. on the week they're due. So you'll have any time that whole week. So for this first exam, I mean, technically, if you wanted to work ahead and get it done early, it's available until February 12th at 5 p.m. It's available now until February 12th at 5 p.m. And you can take it at any time, whenever you feel you're ready. So whenever you've watched all the videos, you've taken really good notes, you've studied. So the exams are timed, but you can take them at any time. So this one, for example, is 60 minutes. And that includes essay questions. So it has 27 multiple choice and 4 essay questions. The multiple choice are presented one at a time with no backtracking. Once you start a quiz, you must finish it. Essay questions must be answered in your own words, and they must reflect the exact terminology and content presented in lecture. Okay, that's a really important point as well. So for example, in exam 2, I'm going to ask you an essay question about properties of water. I explain that in a very specific way in the lecture videos. So if you go on to any other source, such as Mr. Google, and you Google properties of water, you're going to give me an explanation that's totally different and examples that are totally different than what I gave in lecture, and you're going to get a 0. So it has to be exactly as I presented it in lecture, using the same examples, the same terminology, the same content presented in lecture, if that makes sense. So as we, next week, I'll give you guys some more information about the exams, but you can go ahead and work ahead if you want. So if you have some extra time this week, it's a good opportunity to just kind of get ahead on the lecture stuff. Okay, if there are any other questions just about general format, feel free to come into my office hour. I do want to quickly go through the metric conversion problems. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to have you bear with me for a second because I'm gonna share the screen from my iPad. Let me stop share this. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So the metric system is something really important for you to understand because you will use it in every future science class. Science only talks in the metric system. The system we use in the United States is so stupid because nobody else in the world uses it. And it just means things as simple as when you travel and you hear that it's going to be 28 degrees Celsius that day, you don't even know if you need a jacket or not because like we don't think in Celsius, right? Like our brain thinks in Fahrenheit. And the same thing goes for metric measurements. If I asked you to visualize 20 milliliters of water, it might be harder for your brain to visualize that than 1 cup of water. When did I say this video will be available in case we want to look back? Should be by this afternoon. And I just want to really double check that I am recording. Yes, I am recording still. So by sometime this afternoon, it usually takes like 2 hours for it to process and I get an email. And as soon as I get the email that it's available, I post it right away. That's a great question. Okay, so important things to know about the metric system. One is that we only use 1 unit of measure for each category. So for example, for volume, we only use liters. That's really good, right? Because in our messed up system in the United States, we use teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, quarts, pints, gallons, and none of them have the same unit of conversion. So it just becomes confusing. It's a lot of things to memorize. For volume, we only use liters in science. For mass or weight, we only use grams. And for length, we only use meters. To make these units bigger or smaller, we use a prefix. And that prefix always means the same thing, regardless of whether we're talking about volume, mass, or length. The units always mean the same thing. You need to memorize these prefixes and know what they mean. And they're so important that they will be they will be stressed very heavily on that first lab exam because you will use them in all future science classes. And most of you already know them, but the ones you need to know for this class are the following. So the first one is going to be getting bigger than our base units. So these are called our base units or standard units. And to get bigger than your base units, you need a prefix. So to get bigger than liters, you need a prefix, and that prefix is kilo. Kilo is the first metric prefix you need to know. And kilo is 1,000 times bigger than your base units. So 1 kiloliter is 1,000 liters. 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. And we pronounce this kilometer, but you can also say kilometer, is 1,000 meters. So regardless of what type of measurement we're talking about, that kilo always means the same thing. It's 1,000 times bigger than the base unit. So that's something pretty big. Also, you should recognize that there is an abbreviation for each of these. Okay, so kilo, the abbreviation is just a lowercase k. And then it looks the same as uppercase K, the way I'm writing it, but I like using a capital L for liters. For liters, you can use lowercase l or uppercase L. I don't like lowercase l because unless you make it loopy, it looks like a 1. So I usually use a capital L, and either one is correct. So for kiloliter, it would be kiloliter. For kilogram, grams is G. So kilogram would be kilogram. And kilometer is going to be kilometer, kilometer. So that would be your abbreviated version. Okay, that's for getting bigger. For getting smaller, there are 3 that you need to know. You need to know centi, milli, and micro. Okay, the abbreviated version of that, C, M, and this is pronounced mu. Okay, centi is 1/100th of your base unit. Milli is 1/1000th. And micro is 1/1,000,000th. So there are 5 zeros and then the 1. So micro is really small. If we were in lab, you would be doing a DNA lab in which you measure DNA in microliters. We have micropipettes that you're going to see in the basic measurement techniques part of the lab this week. And that micropipette measures microliters. It takes 1 million microliters to equal 1 liter. So for centi, you could either think of this one of 2 ways. So let's do centimeters. So we can either think that 1 centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. The other way we can think of this is it takes 100 centimeters to equal 1 meter. Those are saying the same thing. So if we look at this ruler, the centimeters are the numbers that are on here, and it takes 100 of those to make a meter. So each one is 1/100th of a meter. That's really saying the same thing. And again, that centi is the same if we're talking about grams or if we're talking about liters. So I like using whole numbers, but some people like using the decimal. Some people can connect with this more easily. Like they can picture that 1 centimeter is 1/100th of a meter more easily. And some people, it makes more sense to think of it taking 100 of the small ones to make the bigger one. So I can't tell you which one's going to make more sense for you. It's a kind of an individual thing. But sticking with that pattern, if it takes 100 centimeters to equal 1 meter, it takes 100 centigrams to equal 1 gram and 100 centiliters to equal 1 liter. Those are all saying the same thing, because again, centi always means the same. It's 1/100th. A good way to remember the 100 part of that is there are 100 years in a century. There are 100 cents in a dollar. Okay, milli is 1/1000th, so I'll use milliliters on this one. So 1 milliliter is 1/1000th of a liter. We could also say it takes 1,000 milliliters to equal 1 liter. So if I were to look at that graduated cylinder that I held up earlier, which is falling on my floor, each one of these milliliters, these tiny lines are the milliliters. It takes 1,000 of those to equal a liter. So each one is 1,000th of a liter. It takes 1,000 of those to equal 1 liter. And then micro is 1/1,000,000th. So you could say it takes 1 million micrograms to equal, oops, I didn't say that right. I put 1,000. It takes 1 million micrograms to equal 1 gram. 1 million microliters to equal 1 liter. 1 million micrometers to equal 1 meter. In microbiology, you're going to be looking at tiny bacterial cells, and you're going to be measuring things in micrometers. Very, very small. Okay, how do we then use these conversions to work out problems? So that's kind of the next part of it. Let's check the time. Okay, we have 7 more minutes. I'm going to just take you through some really basic problems and show you exactly how you need to show your work. Now, I know in a lot of cases that you can do this without showing your work that way, but you just have to do it this way, because if you were you're getting credit for taking chemistry and biology by taking this class. This meets the requirement of Bio 100 and Chem 100. So you have to show your work the same way you would be required to in a chemistry class. So let's start with something really simple. How many micrograms? Now, you know what? I'm going to say milligrams, so it'll be easier for us. Sorry, just making this up as I go along. How many milligrams? And I'll put the abbreviation. Are in 5 grams. Okay, I know you can just do this in your head and say that it's 5,000, but here's exactly how you're going to have to show your work for every single problem. Okay, you're going to start with what you're given, 5 grams. And to convert that to milligrams, you're going to use a fraction of equivalent numbers. What do I mean by that? Well, we're going to multiply it by a fraction of equivalent numbers that are going to take us from milligrams to grams or grams to milligrams. We could go either way with this. We said earlier that there are 1,000 milligrams in 1 gram. Okay, or we could also say that 1 milligram is 1/1000th of a gram. You could use either one of these, whichever one makes the most sense to your brain. And now what you're going to do is you're going to make that into a fraction. The way you know which way to flip the fraction is that whatever units you're going to cancel out need to go on the bottom. So I'm going to start by using this one. Okay, this is going to become my fraction. And I want 1 gram on the bottom, because if I divide grams by grams, grams cancel out. And then my 1,000 milligrams goes on top. And now because grams cancel out, I'm in milligrams. And this is saying how many milligrams. So now I've got the right units. Now I just need to do the math. And if you recall, you would take this 5 and you're going to multiply by what's on top, divide by what's on bottom. So technically we'd be going 5 times 1,000 divided by 1. But you don't need to divide by 1 because the answer stays the same. So anytime you multiply by 1 or divide by 1, you can skip that step. So this is going to be 5 times 1,000 is 5,000, and my units are milligrams. You need to always show your units throughout the problem and in your answer. If you show the units throughout your problem, then you're going to know if you do something wrong because everything won't cancel out. Because let's assume that I messed this up and I put my 1 gram on top and my 1,000 milligrams on the bottom. Now when I go to do the math, nothing cancels out. This is going to be grams squared over milligrams. That's not going to get me anywhere. So if you always include your units, you're going to know if you mess something up. I just want to really quickly show you if I'd use the other conversion factor, this one, what that problem would look like. Okay, so I'm going to, again, start with my 5 grams. And I'm going to make a fraction with my grams on the bottom so that grams cancel out and my milligrams on top. But now my numbers are different. Okay, now I'm having 0.001 grams on the bottom and 1 milligram on top. Again, I multiply by what's on top and divide by what's on bottom. So it's going to be 5 times 1 is 5 divided by 0.001. And that's also going to give us 5,000. Grams cancel out. So I'm in milligrams. So that's how you would show your work if the problem just required one step. Okay, but you'll see when you get to the lab that there are questions that require more than one step. So I want to work one of those for you as an example. Also, I'm going to tell you that in addition to the questions that are in the lab, I'm going to pose some additional metric conversion problems also, and the key for those so that you can practice those. But I urge you to work all of the problems in the lab this week. And then if you have any questions or want me to check your work, come into my office hour and I'm happy to check your problems and make sure you're doing them right, since you don't have the benefit of a lab partner this week to help you out. Or you guys can, this is a good opportunity for you guys to start the chat and meet with each other just on your own, not with as a lab group. Okay, now for these, this is going to show you going between English and metric. Oh, you've already taken physio. Okay, cool. Yeah, then this will be easy for you. Okay, let's think of one here. If 1 inch, oh, yeah, if 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, how many inches are in 5 meters? There are some questions like this on the lab that are going to require multiple steps. Okay, I need to get to inches, but my conversion factor is inches to centimeters, and I'm starting with meters. So this is a problem that's going to require 2 steps. First is I'm going to have to go from meters to centimeters, and then I'm going to go from centimeters to inches. Okay, so let's look at how that would be set up. Start with what I'm given, 5 meters. And again, I want to be able to turn this into a fraction, but I can't do that yet, because if I just put inches over centimeters, nothing's going to cancel out. The first thing I need to do is I need to get to centimeters. And the way I do that is I already know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Okay, or I could say 1 centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. I could use either one of those, but I'm going to use this one because just doing it in my head is easier using the whole numbers. So this is going to become a fraction. What do I put on top and what do I put on bottom? Well, I want to cancel out meters, so my 1 meter needs to go on the bottom. And my 100 centimeters goes on top. Meters divided by meters, those cancel out. Now I'm in centimeters. I'm not going to solve this problem now, though. I'm going to set up my next set of parentheses right next to this. That way, I'm going to know if everything correctly canceled out all the way across. Do not solve for this and then go to the next step. Set this up all together, because now I can turn this into a fraction. I need to cancel out centimeters, so centimeters have to go on bottom, but notice this is not a 1. For some reason, students have a reluctance to put a number down here because they're used to having a 1. Centimeters have to go on bottom, and it's 2.54 centimeters. My 1 inch goes up here. Centimeters cancel out. Meters are canceled out. Now I'm in inches. Question saying how many inches. So I know my answer is going to be in inches. Now I just have to do the math. I multiply by what's on top. I divide by what's on bottom. So technically it would be 5 times 100 divided by 1 times 1 divided by 2.54. But remember, anything that's 1, you can skip that. So really it becomes 5 times 100 divided by 2.54. Don't hit equals in between that. Okay, you could, for this class, you can just always use your calculator on your phone. So I encourage you to go ahead and do this just to make sure you get the same answer as me. And this equals 196.85 inches. For decimals, I like to have 2 places after the decimal. I'm not worried about rounding and significant figures in this class. And of course, you would include the inches. And I'll be honest with you, I think this is actually one of the exact questions. I just realized that I think this is one of the exact questions in the lab. So I think I just answered one for you. In fact, the first one might be one of the exact same ones too, but please come to my office hours or email me and set up a time to meet if you go through these questions and you don't understand them. Okay, same on the second part of the lab on the basic measurement, because again, you don't have lab partners this week. I encourage you to work out a system where you guys can chat with each other, but real quickly, let me stop my share here, and this is the last thing I'll tell you. Sorry about the Animal Crossing on my thing here. I just want to show you one more thing. Can you all see my screen on Canvas? Okay, awesome. Right here, discussions. So you're going to have some required discussion posts you're going to make. The first one isn't due until March 5th, so you've got a while still. And I love this one. It's on diets. But right here, this lab Q&A discussion forum, you guys can ask each other questions here. So this is one place you can do that, or you can work at another system for doing that. It's totally up to you. And again, I will post some additional practice problems. What is that I just mentioned about decimals and rounding? Okay, so I like to see 2 digits after the decimal rather than, and I don't really care about rounding. So if you make a rounding error, I'm not gonna call you out on that. And I don't care about significant figures in this class. We got enough to worry about. Okay, we've gone a little bit over. I'm so sorry, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Please don't hesitate if you have any questions. If you're on the wait list, email me today and I can let you know how many people showed and how many spots I have in the class. Okay, and I'm happy to go on Zoom with any of you at any time. I will stay after because I know a couple of you had questions you wanted to stick around for, but have an awesome day, everybody. And I'll see you all next week on Wednesday if you don't come to one of my office hours sooner than that.
Thank you.
If you want to stick around and ask me other questions, I'll hang around until everybody is done with their questions.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.